Okay, afternoon everyone. Joe back here recording video number 2. And let's see, today we are going to work on, I think, our main character and level 1 pretty much. So let's go ahead and jump in. Video 1, sorry for the big breath, video 1 basically worked on starting the entire thing. The entire game went through a bunch of options and whatnot settings. Made some stuff, made the start menu and whatnot, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, we have all these different layers, and where we left off last time was basically we did the loading layout, which has a nice fade to it, or decent fade. We have the start menu, which is again just a bunch of placeholders. A real big reason for a start menu just yet. Probably going to add a difficulty selection. Could also add a load function, so might do that. Level 1. This is going to be the start of our actual game. So, the first thing we could do is design a background. I want this to be a platformer type game. So it's going to be kind of like, for example, a Mario or even a Metroid, Castlevania type, where you jump on platforms and whatnot. Even in Mario, if you fall off a platform, you could even die. Sometimes that happens in Castlevania, but a lot of times, well, in Castlevania 2, well, a few Castlevanias, you can fall just all the way down to the bottom and got to start over. So we will do that. Let's start with the background. Now, make sure you have your background layer selected so everything you create is automatically going to be going in there so you don't have to reorganize later. Let's go ahead and make a sprite, and again, this is just going to be placeholder stuff. And again, I like to use red. I'm just going to crop it down. Make sure my point of origin is in the middle, so that way I know I can just assume it's the middle at all times unless I specifically want to change it. And I could do something like this where I could just stretch it out, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So we have this, let's just call this platform 1, I guess. And one thing we could do is we can make the different levels. Let me try something here. If you hold down the control key and you left click and drag, it'll just make a copy. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is I'm making copies, so each one of these is named platform 1, so this is all the same thing. So if I did any kind of coding manipulation, for instance, if I made these platforms move, then all of these would be moving. And so if I wanted one of these to be stagnant or static while the rest are moving, then I simply have to make another one. Or that would be pretty much the easiest thing to do. So what do I want to start this? This is going to be a basic example. I think I want to expand on it later with things like making the layout bigger so we can have a huge level. This layout size 1708 by 960. I can make this thing pretty big. Let's see if I can make a huge map. You can make a Zelda map, a Zelda dungeon, for example, that kind of size or scale, whatever. So I'm going to make this one a little bit longer. And this is all the same sprite, but this one's now going to be a little bit longer. So the interesting thing about this is if you're doing organization later of sprites, you might do this. I've done this before. When you make a sprite, okay, so the projects tab is your main area where everything is. You have your layouts, you have your event sheet, you have your object types, family sounds, music files, all that good stuff. So you have your sprites here, and you can select your sprites here, you can select your sprites here, but one thing about this is if you select it here, depending on how you do it, it could select everything in the entire game itself, and I'll show you. So right now, you'll notice I have level 1 loaded on this tab. So if I click here, if I click here, it's going to basically select every instance of this object on this, layout. If I click the Start menu and I click here, there's no platform here, so nothing's selected. If I unselect this and I go back here, click that, try to select everything, nothing selected, go back here, nothing selected. So, one way, also notice, while we're here, click Platform 1, the position is kind of blank. That's because this one is different, that one's different, and also the size is, only the X size is blank because the length, the width or what have you is different. So let's say I wanted to get all these, on one level or one size or what have you. Let's say I have these spread all across 10 different levels, and I wanted to unify them all with one setting. One way you can do that, if you need to, is make sure you have an event sheet selected or anything that is not basically a level tab or anything with that object in it. And now when you click this, pretty much when you make these changes, you're making the changes to the entire game. I've had to do that before. I'm pretty sure that's one way to do that. 'Cause if I changed, for instance, this, I don't know if this would work for different things. Let me try this. I'm just going to copy this over here to test. Throw it in here. Oh, that's huge. So I'm going to make everything super small. And here I'm going to try it. And you can see it shrunk that. Here it didn't do anything. Now if I click, let me undo that. Boom. Now if I click Event Sheet and do this, get the size, and then that's the correct size even though the width is off, and then that's all changed. So just an example. Undo a bunch of this stuff. That's good enough. Okay, so I'm going to make this long, and let's say I'm going to have it, you have to jump to do that. Jump up here, jump up here, jump up here somehow. Alright. Simple thing, one thing I remember from a game like Mylon's Secret Castle. It's an old school game I had on Game Boy when I was a kid. Is you'd have to traverse a bunch of stuff, and then all the way at the top or something there'd be a door. Or like Wizards and Warriors, that's another game, where the door would always be at the top after you traversed a lot of jumping or whatnot. So I don't know how we'll get there yet. Eventually we can make things to where maybe some of these move and it makes it a little more difficult. Go ahead and save it. Always recommended. Alright, so you have a bunch of platforms, pretty basic to start. Let me go back to my layers, make sure I click Game, because now we are going to, while I'm here, sorry, go back to backgrounds. We are going to give this now something that is still global, no matter what tab I have open, is if I give it this object a variable, a behavior, or an effect. That's just stuck on the object. It doesn't matter which tab selected, I don't have to do anything special. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to give this behavior a solid, because like we're doing a platformer game, right? So you don't want to do platformer because that's going to be basically the description, jump and run between platforms, solid objects, so that it pretty much goes hand in hand with solid objects. You'll maintain standing and running on solid objects. Alright, so we're going to make that solid, perfect. That's all we really need to do now. Let's go ahead and make sure, alright, that's all done. Make sure our game layer is selected. And we are going to insert another sprite. And let's make this bad boy our player. I'll make him blue this time. And the sizes are really, a lot of times I don't care until I start whittling it down to an actual design. Because I read something once, it's more important to make the game functional and fun than make it look good. And I agree with that. It's kind of too big. 25, 20, let's do 30, 30. That small boy. Yeah, that'll work.